Good morning, you are watching A News. I'm Baku, and let's see the top stories. Britain, Canada, Australia and Portugal recognize a Palestinian state. Erica Kirk says she forgives her husband Charlie's accused killer during a speech at his funeral. And Brussels airport continues to face disruption after cyber attack. Arizona's stadium was filled with tens of thousands of people on Sunday as mourners took part in Charlie Kirk's memorial. President Donald Trump praised him as a fearless defender of conservative values, while Kirk's wife Erica delivered an emotional tribute, urging forgiveness and faith even in the face of tragedy.
Wearing red, white and blue, tens of thousands of people remembered conservative activist Charlie Kirk on Sunday at his memorial in Glendale in Arizona. The event became both a political and emotional event, as mourners paid tribute to his influence on conservative politics and the country's political landscape, while also honouring his personal faith and character. First to the stage was Kirk's wife, Erica, who said that she had forgiven the man accused of killing her husband.
That young man, on the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Several prominent conservative figures also attended the memorial, including US President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and other high-ranking Republican officials, highlighting Kirk's strength within the party. President Donald Trump condemned the attack that killed Kirk on the 10th of September and highlighted ongoing investigations into political violence.
As you know, the depraved assassin who planned and executed Charlie's killing has been arrested and charged with capital murder. God willing, he will receive the full and ultimate punishment for his horrific crime. It's a terrible thing. Because you can't let that happen. You can't let that happen. Can't let it happen to a country. The Department of Justice is also investigating networks of radical left maniacs who fund, organize, fuel, and perpetrate political violence.
While the memorial drew to a close, Kirk's influence on the conservative movement and his personal legacy continue to resonate with supporters across the country.
Four major Western nations, Britain, Canada, Australia and Portugal, have formally recognized the state of Palestine. The move is largely symbolic but aims to revive hopes for a two-state solution and push for peace in Gaza.
Britain, Canada, Australia and Portugal formally recognised the state of Palestine on Sunday, marking a major shift by key Western allies of Israel and boosting the push for a two-state solution. The coordinated announcements were made ahead of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, amid nearly 2 years of conflict in Gaza. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said recognition was meant to keep alive hopes for peace.
We recognised the State of Israel more than 75 years ago as a homeland for the Jewish people. Today, we join over 150 countries who recognise a Palestinian state also. A pledge to the Palestinian and Israeli people that there can be a better future.
Canada became the first G7 nation to recognise Palestine, with Prime Minister Mark Carney announcing it as part of a coordinated effort to preserve a two-state solution, in line with Canada's long-standing policy. Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong added that formal changes would follow in government communication and policy.
Further steps will follow, such as establishing embassies to follow progress on reforms committed to by the Palestinian Authority. This gives effect to the commitment the Prime Minister and I made when we flagged announcement of this recognition.
Portuguese Foreign Minister Paulo Rangel also emphasised their commitment to a two-state solution and stressed that the recognition does not erase the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. However, the United States has maintained its long-standing opposition to recognising Palestine as a state. The US recently vetoed a UN Security Council resolution calling for a Gaza ceasefire, hostage release and unhindered humanitarian aid. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a sharp rebuke, accusing the leaders of rewarding terrorism.
I have a clear message for those leaders who recognise a Palestinian state. After the horrific massacre on October 7th, you are giving a huge reward to terrorism. And I have another message for you. It will not happen. A Palestinian state will not be established west of the Jordan River.
In total, the State of Palestine is recognised by 151 of the 193 United Nations member states. That's approximately 78% of the UN. However, it lacks internationally agreed borders, a capital and an army, rendering the recognition largely symbolic.
And Britain's recognition of Palestinian statehood has sparked mixed reactions, drawing praise from Palestinians and condemnation from Israel.
Britain's recognition of Palestinian statehood has drawn mixed reactions. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced the move, saying a two-state solution, with a Palestinian state existing alongside Israel, is a step toward peace. However, the move has been condemned by many, echoing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's remarks that it would encourage terrorism, citing the Hamas attack in 2023.
I believe in a two-state solution, but I think that this recognition coming in the context of October 7th is an encouragement to terrorism and an acknowledgement that terrorism and what they call resistance works.
Britain's decision means Palestine will now have full diplomatic rights and missions as far as the UK is concerned. The UK government has begun referring to the West Bank and Gaza as Palestine and has updated its website accordingly. Palestinians have welcomed Britain's stance, calling it a victory.
It is time for these countries to stop supporting the occupation and to show their position after watching the demolition, the genocide and the killing in Gaza City and all over the Strip.
Currently, the Palestinian Authority's delegation to the UK is not at embassy level. Britain's Foreign Office says it will outline the process for establishing full diplomatic relations with Palestine in due course. Embassy status would give the delegations protection and privileges under the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations and the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations.
Israel's army has released footage showing military vehicles it says are preparing to enter the Gaza City area. The announcement comes amid criticism that has prompted some of Israel's Western allies to declare they will formally recognize a Palestinian state ahead of the annual UN General Assembly gathering this week. According to Gazan health authorities, Israeli forces blew up more residential buildings in Gaza City on Sunday, killing at least 31 Palestinians as they advanced further into the densely populated area. This year, the United Nations marks 80 years of existence, with world leaders gathering in New York for the opening of its annual General Assembly. Nearly 150 heads of state and government personnel are expected to take the stage this week. But the global organization faces some of the gravest global challenges since its creation in 1945.
Every September, the United Nations General Assembly provides a unique platform, one hall where every country, large or small, has a voice. This Tuesday marks the start of the 81st session under the theme Better Together, 80 years and more for peace, development and human rights. The UN was founded in the aftermath of the Second World War with just 51 members. Today it counts 193 states, plus observer delegations such as the Holy See, Palestine and the European Union. Its purpose remains rooted in preventing conflict, promoting human rights and fostering international cooperation. By tradition, Brazil is always the first to address the assembly, followed by the United States as host nation. After that, the order is set by rank and registration. This year, speeches are expected to be dominated by war and humanitarian emergencies. In Gaza, famine warnings have already been issued as the conflict between Israel and Hamas nears its second year. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will speak next week, while Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas will only appear by video after being denied a US visa. Ukraine will also be center stage. President Volodymyr Zelensky is scheduled to address the assembly on Wednesday, with Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov taking the podium on Saturday. Meanwhile, the Security Council will convene a high-level debate on the war. Other key speakers include Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian, who arrives amid urgent talks over Tehran's nuclear program, and Syria's interim President Ahmed al-Sharaa, given a rare UN travel exemption despite his group remaining under sanctions. His appearance will mark Syria's first post-Assad debut after more than a decade of civil war. Alongside conflict diplomacy, the agenda stretches across the world's other challenges. Climate change will again be a rallying call, especially from small island states most threatened by rising seas. But critics say its structures still reflect the world of 1945, not the multipolar reality of today. Proposals under the UN 80 Reform Initiative aim to make the organization more efficient, cut duplication across thousands of mandates, and place staff closer to the communities they serve. At the same time, there is growing debate over who will replace Secretary General Antonio Guterres when his mandate ends in 2026. The choice will again fall to the Security Council's 5 veto powers, raising familiar questions about legitimacy and balance.
Climate Week has opened in New York, running until 27th of September, featuring over 1,000 events. UN-led closed-door sessions will bring together leaders from government, business and civil society to drive action on key climate issues, laying the groundwork for COP30 later this year in Brazil.
Climate Week has kicked off in New York, running from 21st to 27th September, featuring its largest program yet with over 1,000 events. This year sees record participation from companies and organizations, despite the United States pursuing a fossil fuel agenda and scaling back climate action. Held alongside the UN General Assembly since 2009, Climate Week brings together businesses, campaigners and philanthropists through presentations, panel discussions and networking events, aiming to drive deals and discussion on tackling the climate crisis. Europe remains divided on climate goals, but is on track to cut emissions by 54% by 2030, with Danish Minister Lars Aagaard saying responsibility must now be shared more widely. The centrepiece of the week is the UN Secretary-General's Special Climate Summit on Wednesday, the 24th of September, at UN headquarters. Leaders from 109 countries are expected to take part ahead of COP30 in Brazil, following last year's COP29 in Baku, where nations from around the world updated their Paris Agreement climate pledges. Closed-door solutions dialogues from 22nd to 24th September will tackle extreme heat, adaptation and finance, industrial decarbonisation, methane reduction and tropical forest protection, bringing together leaders from government, business and civil society. The summit will give world leaders a platform to unveil new plans, demonstrate climate commitment and highlight opportunities in the clean energy transition. UN Chief Antonio Guterres, Brazil's President Lula and other leaders will address the summit as fast-developing nations such as Brazil and China take on greater leadership ahead of COP30.
Ukraine's Air Force released footage showing F-16 fighter jets and mobile defense units in action during the attack on Saturday. According to the Air Force, the jets engaged Russian cruise missiles targeting Ukrainian cities, successfully intercepting many of them. The footage was released after the President of Ukraine said that Russia launched about 580 drones and 40 missiles at infrastructure, industry and homes across Ukraine. Ukraine's Air Force said its defenses brought down 552 drones and 31 missiles. A senior Russian commander who led troops in Ukraine is leaving active military service. Russian Colonel General Alexander Lapin, who commanded Russian forces in Ukraine's central and northern regions, has been dismissed from military service. He will take a new role in Tatarstan. Lapin previously faced criticism of the withdrawal from Lyman and was recently replaced as head of the Leningrad military district. Air travel disruption continues at several of Europe's busiest airports after hackers targeted automatic check-in systems. Brussels Airport has asked airlines to cancel half of Monday's departures as airports struggle to restore normal operations. Heathrow, Berlin and Brussels were among the airports affected. Brussels Airport asked airlines to cancel 50 out of 257 scheduled departures on Sunday. In a statement early on Monday, check-in and boarding systems provider Collins said it's working with 4 affected airports and airlines and is finalizing updates to restore full functionality. Now to the region. Baku is hosting the very first Azerbaijan International Investment Forum today. The event encourages leaders, investors and policymakers from around the world to gather here to explore new opportunities, shape global trade and build future partnerships. Our Nadia Jani is there.
It's the first day of the Azerbaijan International Investment Forum and it's held at Seabreeze, and roughly 800 people are expected to attend. The forum provides a unique platform to explore investment and growth opportunities across the region and beyond. It's organised by the Ministry of Economy and AzPromo in strategic partnership with the European House and Braceti. It will bring together government officials, business leaders and top experts in the field. Those attending will discuss prospects of regional cooperation and investment in energy, transport, industry, agriculture, digital development, AI, healthcare and real estate. Today, it kicks off first with the opening speech from President Ilham Aliyev via a link, and then there will be panel sessions throughout the day with fireside chats with some of the best names in the business, and later on there'll be a gala dinner at the end of the session. Well, that's all from me, Nadia Jani for A News.
The third Baku Security Forum came to an end after 3 days of high-level discussions on terrorism, armed conflicts and humanitarian crisis. Organized by Azerbaijan State Security Service, the forum gathered intelligence and security chiefs from around the world to coordinate responses to global threats. Armenia was also represented with National Security Service Director Andronik Simonyan leading a delegation to the talks. Earlier, we were joined by Richard Giragosyan, director of the Regional Studies Center in Yerevan. He said the Armenian security chief's visit to Baku reflects a positive moment in diplomatic engagement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, as well as Armenia and Turkey. Here is more.
Well, this is very significant, especially following the ceremony at the White House in August, where the Armenian and Azerbaijani leaders were able to achieve a remarkable degree of progress. What this Baku visit for 3 days by the Armenian security chief represents is the latest in a more positive momentum of diplomatic engagement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, as well as Armenia and Turkey. And we do expect this momentum to continue.
Azerbaijan and Rwanda have strengthened their partnership with the signing of key agreements on education, air services, agriculture and public service. The agreements were signed during the Rwandan President Paul Kagame's official visit to Baku, where both leaders discussed expanding cooperation in politics, economy and culture.
Rwanda's President Paul Kagame paid an official visit to Azerbaijan, receiving a full state welcome in Baku, including an honor guard and the national anthems of both countries. President Ilham Aliyev hosted Kagame, holding one-on-one and expanded meetings to discuss broad cooperation in politics, economy, education, energy and culture. During the visit, both countries signed several agreements, including an air services agreement, a cooperation agreement in education, and memoranda of understanding on agriculture, public service delivery, and investment promotion. These agreements were exchanged by respective ministers and officials in a ceremony attended by both presidents. In joint press statements, President Aliyev highlighted the growing political and economic partnership, praising Rwanda's support in international forums such as the Non-Aligned Movement and the UN. President Kagame underscored the similarities between the two countries and expressed Rwanda's commitment to strengthening bilateral ties in politics, trade and investment. The visit marks a new chapter in Azerbaijan-Rwanda relations, creating a platform for deeper political, economic and cultural partnership.
Exports of industrial-type dried tomatoes grown in Elazığ in eastern Turkey are expected to reach around 1,300 tons this year. The juicy red fruit will be exported to European countries such as Germany, Spain and England, and are renowned for their taste and aroma.
This year's crop of tomatoes grown in a city in eastern Turkey is set to yield more than 100,000 tonnes. One portion of the industrial-type fruit flourishing in Elazığ will be sent fresh to sauce factories, and another will be dried and exported to several countries including Italy, the UK, Germany and France. The Provincial Director of Agriculture and Forestry says the increase of crops means producers can expand their businesses.
As long as fruit and vegetable production in our province continues to grow in this way, related enterprises will develop and expand further. In particular, our farmers will earn more from dried tomatoes, and with large-scale advanced processing systems, production areas will increase rapidly.
Farm workers, mostly women, will harvest the crop, where half of it will be salted and laid out to dry in the sun. Renowned for their taste and aroma, these dried tomatoes are exported in western Turkey to Europe and beyond, adding flavour to tables worldwide. A local producer says demand for the juicy fruit has increased over the decades.
This year we cultivated tomatoes on 400 to 500 acres of land and produced around 200 tons of dried tomatoes. I employ 120 workers here, and our tomatoes contain no pesticides or additives.
Tomatoes are the leading crop in Elazığ, and rising international demand for them dried, along with support for producers, has led to a steady increase in production. Last year, around 1,000 tonnes was exported, with expectations this year reaching approximately 1,300 tonnes. That's equivalent to drying 20,000 tonnes of fresh tomatoes.
With the support we receive, we plan to expand further. We are considering establishing a sauce factory. Our aim is to grow the business even more and contribute further to our country.
Elazığ's soil, altitude and climate are highly suitable for tomato cultivation. As a result, the soft red fruit is sought after for its quality, both domestically and abroad.
And now we're joined by our sports correspondent Nick Summerby, live from Doha, Qatar, to bring us the latest in the world of sports. Nick, good morning.
Good morning.
Nick, let's start with the Formula One. It was a big weekend in Baku. How did the race unfold and what were the standout moments?
Yeah, well, all the eyes were on Baku at the weekend, and what a show it was as well. It was fantastic. I mean, the scene and the setting and how difficult it was for the drivers around the streets. It's in pole position was Verstappen, and he held that all the way through, which gives you the thought in the back of your mind, could he win the fifth in a row title? You know, there's 7 races to go. Lando Norris, who finished in 7th, there was a pit stop where it delayed a little bit and he wanted to finish higher up the grid. But the big talking point was Piastri. Piastri didn't even make the first lap. He crashed out of it. So it was difficult. I mean, I look at that. Is it the turn 8 and 9? I mean, well, you look at these drivers and you look how tight it is and how professional they've got to be. It really did test them and tested their skills. So Verstappen won, George Russell second, and Siant was with the Williams team. It's the first time he made a podium. So next is Singapore. This is really starting to heat up. Verstappen has an opportunity. Lando Norris is 25 points away from Piastri, 69 points Verstappen. Can he do it? You know, you're talking about one of the greats who all of a sudden has just hit. He's hit his form at the right time. That's back to back. He won the last race in Italy. Verstappen, people are looking and thinking, can he do it? But Lando Norris, he is the one who really can cast Piastri. But Piastri has to really start getting points on the board. But great weekend.
So turning to football, the Premier League always delivers drama. What were the key talking points from this weekend's matches?
Well, we started off with Anfield, which was Liverpool against Everton in the local derby. Liverpool at the moment, you just can't stop them. And you can't help but think it's going to be all about them. It's going to be a wonderful season. They are undefeated. We went through to Sunday where Arsenal played Manchester City. Manchester City, Haaland getting the opening goal. A different type of Manchester City, we do have to say, because they defended, they gave the possession away. They went and got a goal against the run of play, and you thought they were going to see the game off and get a huge 3 points, but then they managed to get back into it, Arsenal, right at the end. Martinelli with an absolute superb goal. Other results around as well. Manchester United beat Chelsea, Casemiro getting sent off, and Sanchez, the goalkeeper for Chelsea, getting sent off early on, so it's difficult for them. Bournemouth, Newcastle 0-0. Sunderland, my old team, that's 1-2. Drawn 2, 1-1 with Villa. Villa cannot get a victory. Only one goal for them. West Ham under pressure. They lost at home to Palace. Wolves cannot get a victory at all. Leeds. You look at these promoted teams and they're putting a fight up, so it makes it very interesting. Also Burnley 1-1 with Forest. Postecoglou still looking for his first victory. Let's not forget he lost against Swansea in the cup in the midweek, so the Forest fans won't be happy at all. Spurs salvaged a point. They were losing 2-1 at Brighton and pulled it back to 2-2. So it is all to play. We have more games in the midweek, which is the Carabao Cup. Then more fixtures next weekend, and then the weekend after, and then we go back into an international break. But at the moment, we're looking at Arsenal, and we're thinking Arsenal, if you're 5 points away from Liverpool, it's all Liverpool's at the moment.
Nick, what were some of the big results across Europe's top leagues?
Well, Juventus are leading the top of the Italian league. Napoli have got to play Pisa. They're undefeated, Juventus, but they've drawn one. So it is, if Napoli win tonight, they go back on top. Real Madrid, I say it every week. Mbappe, 7 goals in 6 at the moment. I mean, they said since he went there last season, he was poor. He scored over 30 goals. The man is a machine, and he is absolutely flying at the moment. Real Madrid looking good. Barcelona as well. They were good in Europe in the midweek, seeing off Newcastle, and Barcelona won 3-0. No Rashford in that game, but obviously he scored a couple of goals in the Champions League. Also, Marseille was supposed to play Paris Saint-Germain, but there was weather in the region which called the game off. I mean, that's a huge game between those two there, but it's all about Paris Saint-Germain. They're still top at the moment. And Bayern Munich, how many times do I keep mentioning about Harry Kane? It's another hat-trick from him all throughout his career. I don't think I ever come on here every week and say he doesn't score. He's an absolute machine, and he's going to take some beating. Dortmund are in second at the moment, but it looks to me like Bayern Munich. And a good result the midweek as well by them, beating Chelsea in the Champions League, so I expect a successful season from Bayern Munich, but as I said, Harry Kane on fire as usual.
The 2025 World Wrestling Championships was held from 13th to 21st of September in Zagreb, Croatia for the first time. What can you say about the results?
Yeah, well, it finished, which is on the 21st, a couple of days ago. There was 1,200 wrestlers there from around the globe, all different weight divisions. So Ravi, he had a 4-year waiting list from him. When I say a waiting list, is to get his hand on that trophy again and to be the world champion he is. And it was just phenomenal. It was, as I said, the first time it had been in Croatia. And if you like your wrestling, for me to go through everything with all the different weight divisions, it's huge. But once again, fantastic. The best of the best competing against each other. So another successful story.
Nick, and what should fans be looking forward to in the coming week? Any major fixtures or events on the horizon?
Yeah, well, we've got a lot in the midweek. We've got the Carabao Cup in England. La Liga goes on as well. You've got the Europa League, we had the Champions League last week, so the Europa League will play this week. A lot of huge matches there. You've got the Coppa Italia as well. And then obviously we build up to next weekend where the fixtures around Europe and around the world carry on again, and I'll be bringing it straight to you. We're going to see Liverpool get beat. We're going to see Real Madrid get beat. I want to give you a shock. I want to give you a surprise, but at the moment it seems to be business as usual from all the big clubs.
Nick, thank you very much for these updates and insights. We appreciate you joining us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
That's the news update from us in Baku this morning. Stay tuned to A News for more.